The holographic display flickered with a malevolent rhythm, casting ghostly blue light across Dr. Olivia Hartley's cramped research station. Scattered coffee mugs and data tablets surrounded her like archaeological evidence of countless sleepless nights. Each screen displayed fragments of a puzzle that had consumed her entire career, a cosmic mystery that defied every known principle of xenorchaeology. 217 civilizations, 17 years of research, 6 words that would change everything. Her fingers danced across the quantum interface, pulling together transmission records that spanned thousands of light years and hundreds of years. The universal translator hummed softly, its advanced algorithms struggling to make sense of the data. Most researchers would have given up long ago. Most would have called her obsessive, maybe even crazy. But Olivia knew she was onto something profound. The first anomaly had appeared during her doctoral research, a subtle pattern in the final transmissions of an extinct silicon-based civilization from the Kepler arm. Back then, it seemed like an academic curiosity, a linguistic quirk, perhaps. But as she continued her research, the pattern repeated, again and again and again. They'd protect something far more darker. The grammar was intentionally broken. The translation was consistent across completely unrelated communication systems. Biological neural networks, quantum crystal matrices, electromagnetic pulse communications. Each method delivered the exact same message. Statistical probability suggested this was impossible. And yet, here it was. Olivia zoomed in on the most recent dataset. The Vorlon Collective, a gaseous intelligence that had spanned 17 star systems, had transmitted the message moments before their complete extinction. Their final communication was a desperate burst of information, compressed into a quantum signal that would take decades to fully decode. She remembered the day she first noticed the pattern. It was during a routine analysis of extinct civilization archives at the Interstellar Historical Consortium. Most of her colleagues were focused on trade routes, technological development, or reasons for societal collapse. Olivia had always been different. She was interested in the stories civilizations told in their final moments. The research station's environmental systems hummed quietly. Outside the reinforced windows, stars moved in their eternal dance, oblivious to the mystery unfolding inside. Olivia hadn't slept more than 4 hours in the past 3 days. Her latest analysis had uncovered something unprecedented, a microscopic quantum signature that was identical across all the transmissions. Not similar, identical. She pulled up holographic representations of the transmissions. Each one was a beautiful, complex web of information, like intricate cosmic snowflakes. But at their core, they shared something impossible, a quantum fingerprint that suggested a connection far beyond simple coincidence. The university had nearly revoked her research grant 3 times. The Interstellar Historical Consortium had warned her about unproductive speculation. Her mentor, Dr. Franklin Roberts, had told her to focus on more measurable outcomes. But Olivia knew better. Something was connecting these civilizations. Something was warning about humanity. A priority communication signal interrupted her thoughts. The quantum communicator blinked with an encrypted message. Sender, unknown. Location, classified. Her hand hesitated over the receiver. In 17 years of research, she had never received an encrypted communication about her work. Most of the scientific community considered her research a fascinating, but ultimately fruitless endeavor. The message could be nothing. The system glitch, a mistaken transmission, or it could be everything. Olivia took a deep breath and activated the quantum decryption protocol. The message began to resolve, its quantum encrypted content slowly transforming into readable text. 6 words appeared first. You are closer than you know. Then the rest of the message unfolded, and Dr. Olivia Hartley realized her life was about to change forever. Her research was no longer just an academic pursuit. It was a warning, a revelation, and humanity was at the center of a cosmic mystery that had been waiting to be unraveled. The Galactic Concordance Hall stretched like a cathedral of alien diplomacy, its crystalline walls refracting light in impossible geometric patterns. Olivia Hartley stood at the central podium, her presentation slowly unfolding behind her, a tapestry of interconnected warnings that defied rational explanation. Diplomatic representatives from 47 different species watched her with a mixture of curiosity and growing unease. The holographic displays flickered with transmission data, each slide revealing another layer of the cosmic mystery. Olivia could feel the weight of their collective gaze, a pressure that seemed to press against her very thoughts. The first murmurs began softly, a low, resonant humming from the Zornak delegation, methane-breathing entities whose translators vibrated with an almost musical undertone. Their representative, Ambassador Krulax, shifted uncomfortably in his environmental suit. The suit's adaptive membranes rippled with what could only be described as tension. 217 civilizations, Olivia continued, her voice steady despite the growing resistance in the room. Each with a final transmission that shares an identical core message, not a similar message, not a coincidental phrase, an exact word-for-word warning. The holographic display behind her showed a complex web of connections, star systems, civilizations, and transmission methods, all linked by 6 impossible words. They protect something far more darker. A ripple of discomfort moved through the assembled diplomats. The universal translation matrices struggled with the message, creating a discordant symphony of linguistic confusion. Some translators flickered. Others simply went silent. Ambassador Krulax raised a tentacle-like appendage. "Dr. Hartley," he began, his voice a carefully modulated series of clicks and harmonics, "your research suggests a level of coordinated communication that is statistically improbable. Impossible, even." Olivia met his gaze. Years of research had prepared her for this moment. "Not impossible," she responded, "just not yet understood." The crystalline ambassador from the Zarkath delegation suddenly stood. Its living crystalline form began to fracture along microscopic fault lines, a physiological response that suggested extreme emotional distress. For a species known for absolute emotional control, this was unprecedented. "Stop," the ambassador whispered. The translation matrix picked up layers of meaning, fear, warning, desperation. Security protocols began to activate. Invisible energy fields hummed to life around the diplomatic chamber. Something was very wrong. Dr. Franklin Roberts, Olivia's former mentor, sat in the observation section. He knew what was happening. More importantly, he knew what Olivia was about to reveal. "The quantum signature," Olivia continued, "is identical across all transmissions. Not similar. Identical. This suggests a level of communication that transcends known physical laws. These civilizations were trying to tell us something critical about humanity's role in the cosmic ecosystem." The Galactic Concordance Hall had hosted thousands of diplomatic sessions. It had mediated conflicts spanning multiple star systems, but nothing had ever prepared it for this moment. Ambassador Krulax's translator began to malfunction. Fragments of message burst through. Desperate warnings, partial translations that made no sense. "Guardians," one burst translated. "Containment," another fragment suggested. The Zarkath ambassador's crystalline form began to shimmer, parts of its body becoming translucent. "Some doors," it said, its voice breaking, "are meant to remain closed." Olivia realized she was witnessing something extraordinary. These weren't just diplomatic representatives. They were messengers, survivors, witnesses to something far greater than any single civilization could comprehend. Security protocols reached maximum alert. Energy fields crackled with potential violence. But no one moved. No one could move. The presentation continued. Each slide revealed another layer of the cosmic mystery. Civilizations separated by thousands of light years. Communication methods that should have been incompatible. And yet, a single, impossible message connecting them all. They protect something far more darker. Dr. Franklin Roberts knew the truth. Humanity had been chosen, selected, prepared for a role that no other civilization could understand. And now, that truth was about to be revealed. The diplomatic session was about to become something else entirely. A revelation. A warning. A moment that would change everything humans thought they knew about their place in the universe. Olivia took a deep breath. Her next words would change everything. The encrypted message arrived like a ghost from a forgotten war. Jack Reese stared at the quantum communication device, his weathered hands trembling slightly. 17 years of silence. And now this. The message bore a signature he hadn't seen in decades. A quantum encryption key used only by the most classified units of the Deep Space Exploration Command. His small Colorado mountain cabin seemed to contract around him. Walls lined with carefully curated memories. Photographs of missions never officially acknowledged. Mission patches from expeditions erased from every known record. A lifetime of secrets pressed against him like physical weight. The quantum decryption took precisely 137 seconds. Jack knew this because he counted each one, his military-trained mind unable to stop analyzing, calculating, preparing. Dr. Olivia Hartley's face appeared in the holographic transmission. She looked younger than her years, but her eyes carried the weight of someone who had seen too much. Jack recognized that look. He saw it every morning in his own mirror. Commander Reese, her message began. I found something. The warnings. The patterns. They're real. Jack closed his eyes. He knew exactly what warnings she meant. The first deep space missions hadn't been about exploration. They had been about containment, about understanding a threat so profound that it could never be discussed in public records. He remembered the briefings, the impossible photographs, the crew members who returned fundamentally changed. Mission Shadowline, July 16, 2089. The memory crashed over him like a physical wave. They had discovered something beyond the Kuiper Belt, something that wasn't a simple alien artifact or an unexplained astronomical phenomenon. It was a presence, a void that watched, a darkness that seemed to breathe with an intelligence that defied human comprehension. Of the original 37 crew members, only 12 returned, and those 12 were never the same. Lieutenant Maria Rodriguez had developed the ability to predict equipment failures moments before they happened. Her brain scans showed neural pathways that followed quantum probabilities impossible for human biology. She could see potential futures as clearly as most people saw the present. Specialist David Chen could manipulate localized gravitational fields, not through technology, through something else, something that medical science couldn't explain. During one incident, he had stopped a critical reactor meltdown by simply standing near the failing systems, his body creating a field that stabilized impossible quantum instabilities. Jack remembered the debriefings, the medical examinations, the psychological evaluations that went on for years. Each crew member had been fundamentally altered. Their DNA showed microscopic changes. Their neurological patterns defied every known scientific model. The official report had been 3 words long. Mission. Partially. Successful. Partially successful. As if containing a cosmic threat could be measured in such mundane terms. He opened a locked drawer in his desk. Inside lay a single data crystal, the only remaining unredacted record of the Shadowline mission. Most of his contemporaries were dead, killed in training accidents, disappeared during classified operations. The lucky ones had simply been discredited, their careers and reputations destroyed. Jack's quantum communicator chirped again. Another encrypted message, this time from someone he thought had died decades ago. Dr. Franklin Roberts, his old scientific advisor from the earliest deep space missions, the man who had first suggested that humanity might be more than just another species exploring the cosmos, that they might be something else entirely. The message was brief, cryptic. They're getting closer to understanding. Protect the research. Protect her. Jack knew exactly who her meant. Dr. Olivia Hartley was now carrying a torch that could illuminate the darkest secrets of human existence, or get her killed in the process. He began to prepare. Old training took over. Communication protocols from decades past. Secure communication methods that had been developed for scenarios no one wanted to admit could exist. Humanity wasn't just exploring the cosmos. They were guarding something, containing something. And now someone was getting close to understanding why. Jack Reese smiled. For the first time in years, he felt something close to hope. The coordinates defied every known astronomical chart, a region of space that existed between known star systems, in a pocket of reality that could not exist. Dr. Olivia Hartley's research vessel, the Horizon Explorer, moved with calculated precision, its advanced sensors probing the surrounding space like nervous fingers. Jack Reese stood beside her, his military posture unchanged despite years of retirement. The bridge was a symphony of muted technological hums, each console displaying impossible readings that seemed to contradict themselves with every passing second. "We're approaching the anomaly," the navigation officer reported, her voice tight with suppressed tension. The first visual contact came unexpectedly. One moment, there was nothing. The next, a massive structure materialized, not emerged, not appeared, but simply existed where moments before there had been empty space. It was beautiful and terrifying. The construct defied conventional understanding of geometry. Massive crystalline structures intertwined with what seemed to be organic biomechanical components. Fragments of technology from civilizations separated by millions of light years were embedded within its structure, like archaeological layers of cosmic history. "My God," Jack whispered, "it's a prison." Olivia's fingers danced across the quantum interface, collecting data faster than most computers could process. Each scan revealed layers of complexity that challenged everything humans understood about physics, technology, and the nature of reality itself. Spectral analysis showed impossible elements, quantum signatures that flickered between existence and non-existence, materials that seemed to be simultaneously matter and energy, solid and liquid, present and absent. "The technological signatures," Olivia muttered, "they're not just from different civilizations. They're from different dimensional planes." Jack recognized some of the embedded technologies. Fragments from missions he'd been part of decades ago. Pieces of technology that had been classified beyond top secret. Technologies that should have been impossible. A soft alarm broke the tension. The ship's quantum resonance sensors began to malfunction. Not fail. Malfunction. The difference was critical. "We're being observed," Jack said suddenly. It wasn't a guess. It was a statement of fact. The construct began to pulse. Not with light, not with energy, but with something else. A rhythm that seemed to resonate with something deeper than physical sensation. The bridge crew began to experience simultaneous sensations, memories that weren't their own, glimpses of realities that existed beyond human perception. Lieutenant Sarah Martinez, the ship's chief science officer, suddenly went rigid. Her eyes rolled back, displaying complex quantum equations that danced across her retinas like living mathematics. "It's communicating," she whispered. The construct was more than a structure. It was a message, a warning. The containment mechanism designed by civilizations that understood something fundamental about the nature of cosmic threats. Olivia's quantum interface began to decode fragments, transmission logs, historical records, warning systems that had been in place for millions of years. Pieces of a cosmic puzzle started to align. The construct had been waiting, not just for humans, but for the right combination of scientific understanding and intuitive capacity to comprehend its true purpose. Jack recognized the pattern. The same pattern he had seen in the first deep space missions, the same adaptive response that had transformed his original crew members. Humanity wasn't just discovering something. They were being prepared for something. "We're not here by accident," Jack said quietly. "We were selected." The construct pulsed again. This time, the entire ship resonated with a frequency that seemed to exist beyond normal perception. Crew members experienced simultaneous visions, glimpses of potential futures, alternate realities, cosmic threats that existed beyond human comprehension. Lieutenant Martinez began to recite complex quantum equations, Her voice carried a resonance that suggested she was no longer entirely speaking of her own volition. "Guardians," she said. "Preparation. Containment." The bridge fell silent. Outside, the construct continued to exist, waiting, watching, containing something that no single civilization could understand alone. Humanity had been chosen. But for what? The mystery was just beginning to unfold. The historical archives spread before Olivia like a wounded memory of the universe. Holographic displays flickered with transmission logs from civilizations long dead, their final moments preserved in quantum crystal repositories. Each record told a fragment of a story more terrifying than any cosmic horror humanity had ever imagined. Dr. Franklin Roberts stood beside her, his aged hands trembling slightly as he guided her through the most classified documents in human history. The research station, buried deep beneath the Colorado mountains, was more than a research facility. It was a vault of cosmic secrets. "Not all threats are physical," Franklin began, his voice carrying the weight of decades of hidden knowledge. "Some exist beyond the conventional understanding of matter, energy, or dimensional stability." The first coherent records came from the Zornak archival transmissions, a gaseous civilization that had spanned 17 star systems. They had been the first to fully comprehend the nature of the threat. Their final transmission was a desperate warning, a complex mathematical proof that suggested the existence of something beyond entropy, a cosmic cancer. Not a simple destructive force, something far more profound. An entity, or more accurately, a concept that could unravel the fundamental fabric of reality itself. It wasn't about destroying civilizations. It was about dismantling the very laws that allowed existence to maintain its structural integrity. Olivia's fingers traced the quantum algorithms. Each civilization had discovered fragments of the truth. The crystalline collective of Zarkath had mapped its dimensional signatures. The quantum networks of the Vorlon had calculated its potential spread. The membrane consciousness of the Kithax had understood its adaptive capabilities. But none could contain it. Alone. Humanity wasn't the first choice, Franklin said quietly. We were the last option. The holographic displays began to show a terrifying narrative. Civilizations that had discovered the threat had two options: complete destruction of their entire dimensional infrastructure, or containment. Containment required something specific: a species with particular adaptive capabilities, a civilization that could evolve rapidly, that could understand complex multidimensional threats, that possessed a unique combination of scientific curiosity and survival instinct. Jack Reese entered the room, his military bearing unchanged by years of retirement. The early deep space missions, he said, were never about exploration. They were tests. Tests to see if humanity could comprehend the threat. The first anomalous crew members from the Shadowline mission were no accident. Maria Rodriguez with her predictive capabilities. David Chen and his gravitational manipulations. They were prototypes. Evolutionary experiments designed to prepare humanity for a role no other civilization could fulfill. Franklin pulled up a transmission that made Olivia's breath catch. A comprehensive analysis from 17 different extinct civilizations. Their final collective warning compressed into a single impossible transmission. The threat was adaptive. It could consume entire dimensional structures. It wasn't just a force of destruction. It was a concept that could unmake reality itself. A cosmic predator that fed on the fundamental structures that allowed existence to maintain its coherence. Why us? Olivia asked, her voice barely a whisper. Jack's response was immediate. Because we're the only ones crazy enough to fight something we can't fully understand. The historical records showed a pattern. Each civilization that discovered the threat went through similar stages. Initial discovery. Absolute terror. Attempts at conventional containment. Failure. And then, a desperate search for a solution. Humanity was that solution. Not because they were the most advanced. Not because they were the most intelligent. But because they possessed something unique. An adaptive capacity. A survival instinct that defied conventional scientific understanding. The threat existed in a space between reality, a dimensional predator that consumed the very concept of stability. Mathematical models suggested it could unravel entire universal structures in moments. "We're not just protecting ourselves," Franklin said. "We're protecting everything." The historical archives continued to flicker. Transmissions from dead civilizations, warnings compressed into quantum signatures, mathematical proofs that suggested the impossible. Humanity had been chosen, selected, prepared, to guard something darker than any civilization could comprehend. The real mission was just beginning. The first signs appeared quietly, almost imperceptibly. On the mining colony of New Horizon, Laura Ramirez noticed something strange during her routine equipment inspection. The reactor's stability readings flickered unnaturally. Most engineers would have dismissed it as a sensor glitch. But Laura knew. Before the alarm could sound, she understood exactly what would fail and how. 3 decks below, the reactor's primary coolant system began to destabilize. Laura's hand moved with impossible precision. She adjusted a valve that shouldn't have been connected to the cooling system. The reactor stabilized. Perfectly. Thousands of kilometers away, on the education complex of Europa Colony, Marcus Williams watched his kindergarten class with growing fascination. 8-year-old Emily Chend demonstrated an ability that defied every known scientific principle. During a simple physics demonstration, she manipulated gravitational fields around small metal objects. Not through technology, through something else entirely. The medical scans were unprecedented. Genetic markers that shouldn't exist, neural pathways that followed quantum probability models, adaptive capabilities that suggested a deliberate, systematic transformation of human potential. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, the lead researcher at the Genetic Adaptation Research Institute, worked tirelessly to understand the phenomenon. Her team had been tracking these changes for months. Each case was different, yet fundamentally the same. A communications officer who could predict communication disruptions moments before they happened. A deep space pilot who could navigate through asteroid fields with impossible precision. A medical researcher who could diagnose complex genetic disorders by simply being in the same room as a patient. These weren't random mutations. They were a preparation. Jack Reese's classified files began to make sense. The early deep space missions, the crew members who returned fundamentally changed. This was happening on a species-wide scale. The quantum communication network began to show strange patterns. Transmission logs revealed clusters of these adaptive capabilities. They weren't random. They were strategic, distributed across human colonies with mathematical precision. Dr. Franklin Roberts called it the Awakening Protocol. Genetic markers that had remained dormant for generations were suddenly activating, not through external intervention, through some internal mechanism that scientists couldn't fully comprehend. On the Mars Research Station, Dr. Sarah Martins discovered something even more extraordinary. The genetic changes weren't just happening to humans, they were happening to the environment around them. Plants in the hydroponic gardens developed adaptive capabilities. Microorganisms displayed problem-solving behaviors that defied biological understanding. It was as if humanity was being upgraded, prepared for something. Olivia Hartley connected the dots, the cosmic construct they had discovered, the warnings from extinct civilizations, the strange adaptations. Everything pointed to a single, terrifying conclusion. Humanity was being transformed into something else, something more. The quantum research teams began to document the changes. Neural scans showed brain activity that followed multidimensional probability models. Genetic analysis revealed markers that suggested an ability to perceive and interact with dimensional structures beyond conventional understanding. A mining engineer who could predict equipment failures. A teacher whose students could manipulate gravitational fields. A communications officer who understood transmission disruptions before they happened. These weren't skills. They were evolutionary adaptations. Jack Reese understood first. This was the preparation they had been discussing for decades. The early deep space missions had been more than exploration. They had been the first tests. the first attempts to understand humanity's potential. "We're being prepared," he told Olivia during a secure communication. "Not just to protect, but to contain." The cosmic threat wasn't something that could be fought with conventional weapons. It required something else, a species that could adapt, that could understand threats beyond dimensional boundaries. Humanity was becoming that species. In research labs, medical facilities, and colonies across human-controlled space, people began to change. Subtly at first, then more dramatically. Neural capacities expanded. Perception shifted. Understanding deepened. The awakening had begun, and nothing would ever be the same again. The first breach happened without warning. Star systems began to flicker, not like distant lights, like reality itself was struggling to maintain coherence. The quantum communication networks erupted with impossible transmissions, fragments of realities that should not exist, messages that defied linear time, warnings from dimensions that humans had never imagined. Jack Reese coordinated the first response from the Deep Space Command Center. The facility, buried beneath the Rocky Mountains, hummed with an energy that was part technological, part something else entirely. Screens displayed impossible data, quantum probability models that shifted and changed faster than human perception could track. "Containment is failing," Dr. Elena Rodriguez reported, her voice calm despite the cosmic catastrophe unfolding around them. The adaptive capabilities they had observed in humans were no longer theoretical. They were humanity's primary defense. Laura Ramirez, the mining engineer who could predict equipment failures, now stood at the primary quantum interface. Her hands moved with an almost musical precision, manipulating dimensional barriers that no human technology should have been able to touch. Around her, a team of specially prepared individuals worked in perfect synchronization. The threat wasn't a simple invasion. It was a dimensional predator that consumed the very fabric of reality. Star systems near the breach began to experience impossible phenomena. Time fractured. Space folded. Entire planetary systems flickered between existence and non-existence. Marcus Williams, the kindergarten teacher who had first noticed the gravitational manipulations in his students, now led a specialized response team. The children he had taught were now the first line of defense. Their adaptive capabilities had transformed them into something beyond conventional military units. "We're not fighting an enemy," Jack told Olivia Hartley as they monitored the dimensional breaches. "We're maintaining the cosmic balance." The cosmic construct they had discovered weeks earlier now served as humanity's primary defensive platform. Technologies from extinct civilizations integrated with human adaptive capabilities created a defensive mechanism that defied conventional understanding. Emily Chen, now a young adult, stood at the center of the primary defensive array. Her ability to manipulate gravitational fields had evolved into something far more complex. She could perceive dimensional structures, understand their fundamental weaknesses, and create stabilization fields that prevented complete dimensional collapse. The battle occurred simultaneously across multiple realities. Human defenders shifted between dimensional planes with an ease that would have been impossible months earlier. They were no longer simply fighting. They were maintaining the fundamental structure of existence. Quantum probability models showed the true nature of the conflict. The dimensional predator wasn't a single entity. It was a concept, a fundamental threat to the very idea of stable reality. Humanity's adaptive capabilities were the only defense. "We're holding," Elena reported, though holding was a massive understatement. They were pushing back against a threat that had consumed entire civilizations. The quantum communication networks became a living entity. Transmissions from extinct civilizations merged with human adaptive capabilities. Each defender became part of a larger, living defensive mechanism. Individual humans were no longer just themselves. They were nodes in a cosmic defensive network. Jack watched in awe as Emily Chen created a dimensional stabilization field that prevented a complete reality collapse. Her movements were part mathematical calculation, part intuitive dance. Around her, other defenders worked in perfect synchronization. The threat began to retreat. not defeated, contained. Olivia understood now. This was why humanity had been chosen. Their adaptive capabilities, their stubborn resilience, their ability to understand threats that existed beyond conventional perception. "We're not just defenders," Jack said quietly. "We're the immune system of the universe." The dimensional breaches began to close, not through conventional weapons, through a complex interaction of human adaptive capabilities, quantum technologies, and a fundamental understanding of dimensional structures that no single civilization had ever achieved. Star systems stabilized. Time realigned. The fundamental structures of reality reasserted themselves. Humanity had done what no other civilization could. They had protected something darker. And in doing so, they had become something more. The silence after the dimensional conflict was more profound than any sound humanity had ever experienced. Dr. Olivia Hartley stood at the observation deck of the Deep Space Research Station, watching as reality slowly reassembled itself. The universe wasn't just healing, it was remembering. Quantum strings realigned, dimensional boundaries stabilized, and humanity's true purpose became crystal clear. Jack Reese approached her, his weathered face reflecting the weight of what they had just witnessed. "We were never just explorers," he said quietly. "We were always the guardians." The cosmic construct they had discovered weeks earlier now revealed its full complexity. It wasn't a weapon. It wasn't a defensive structure. It was a message, a living testament to the fundamental role humanity would play in maintaining universal stability. Dr. Elena Rodriguez compiled the final reports. Each page revealed layers of understanding that would revolutionize human perception of existence itself. The adaptive capabilities they had observed were no accident. They were a deliberate evolutionary path, a species-wide preparation for a role that transcended individual survival. Emily Chen, the young woman who had demonstrated extraordinary dimensional manipulation abilities, stood at the center of a holographic display. Her capabilities had become a bridge between human perception and cosmic understanding. She was no longer just a defender. She was a translator of fundamental universal laws. "We're the universe's immune system," Franklin Roberts explained, his voice carrying the wisdom of decades of hidden research. "Every civilization that came before us discovered the threat, but only we could contain it. The threat wasn't a simple enemy. It was a fundamental force of cosmic entropy, a dimensional predator that consumed the very concept of stable reality. Humanity had been selected, prepared, and transformed to serve as its primary containment mechanism. Historical records from extinct civilizations now made perfect sense. The warnings, the careful genetic preparations, the subtle manipulations that had guided human evolution for thousands of years. Everything had been leading to this moment. Jack reviewed the final mission logs. The early deep space missions weren't failures. They were the first tests, the initial preparations for humanity's ultimate role. Each crew member who returned changed was a prototype, a test of the adaptive capabilities that would become humanity's greatest strength. Olivia discovered something even more profound in the Cosmic Constructs archives. Humanity wasn't the first species considered for this role, but they were the first to succeed. Their unique combination of scientific curiosity, adaptive capabilities, and sheer stubborn resilience made them perfect for the task. The dimensional breaches began to heal, not through conventional technology, but through a complex interaction of human adaptive capabilities and a fundamental understanding of cosmic structures. Humanity had become something more than a species. They were now the maintainers of cosmic balance. "We protect something darker," Emily said, her voice carrying a resonance that went beyond human hearing. "Not by destroying, by understanding." The Galactic Concordance, the diplomatic body of surviving alien civilizations, began to understand humanity's true role. They were no longer seeing humans as a young, potentially destructive species. They were witnessing the universe's primary defensive mechanism in action. Dr. Rodriguez's final report was both a scientific document and a philosophical revelation. Humanity's evolution had been guided, not by a single entity, but by a complex, multidimensional understanding of cosmic survival, their genetic markers, their adaptive capabilities, their ability to perceive threats beyond conventional understanding. All of it was part of a grand design. Jack Reese looked at Olivia. "We're not just protecting the galaxy," he said. "We're protecting the very concept of existence." The cosmic construct continued to pulse, not as a weapon, not as a defensive structure, but as a living message, a testament to humanity's newfound purpose. They were the guardians, the maintainers, the immune system of reality itself. Humanity had been chosen, not because they were the strongest, not because they were the most advanced, but because they possessed something far more important: the ability to protect something darker, to maintain the fundamental balance that allowed existence to continue. As the dimensional boundaries stabilized, a new chapter of human understanding began. They were no longer just a species exploring the cosmos. They were its protectors.